Hello guys, welcome to the 12th part of Angular-10 series of tutorials. In the previous tutorial, we understood what the directives are and what are the different types of directives. In this tutorial and the upcoming two tutorials, we'll discuss about most commonly used structural directives with examples. Let's start with ngIf directive. An if-else in programming is a conditional statement that runs different set of statements depending on whether the expression is true or false. ngIf also works in the same way. When the expression evaluates to true, Angular renders the template provided in if class, and when the expression evaluates to false or null, Angular renders the template provided in else class. ngIf is a structural directive that conditionally includes a template based on the value of an expression. For example, if the condition is true, the text inside the div will be rendered on the web page. We can add an outcome when our conditions were not met. This is where else class comes into picture. To add an else class, we need to add a semicolon followed with else and else block name inside the if condition. Now, to render the else block, we need to add the else block name with hash notation like how we added to ng template here. ng template is a virtual element. It is recommended to use ng template along with structural directives like ngIf, ngFor, and ngSwitch. Alright, with these details, let's see what we need to achieve by launching the browser. So the expectation is we need to design a web page with a button, and upon clicking of the button, we need to toggle the if and else conditions by using ngIf structural directives. Let's flip to the Visual Studio Code and see how to achieve this. We are back to Visual Studio Code. Offline, I have created an Angular project with the name Structural Directives by using Angular CLI. Let me create a folder called Components inside SRC app. Inside Components folder, let us create an Angular component by convention ngIf-demo. To do that, we need to open a new terminal and get into src/app/components. Now, to create a new component, ng space generate space component ngIf-demo. Perfect. ngIf demo component is created. So let's create a button inside HTML template. So let us name it as display, and we need to bind this button with a click event. Add click, and as we need to toggle the if and else conditions, let me give the name as toggle display. Okay, let's create a property and toggle that on button click. The property name is, let us go with toggle, and the type is boolean. Let us by default assign that to true. And also we need to create a method called toggle display. Perfect. Let's toggle the property inside this method. Return this.toggle not this.toggle. This means we are assigning the opposite value to it on each button click. Okay, let's drive to HTML template and add a div tag, and let us add ngIf directive to it. ngIf, and if the toggle property is true, we need to display a h1 tag. Let us add the text inside h1 like from if class. Perfect. With these changes, let's launch the browser. But before that, let us include the selector of ngIf component inside the root component. I mean our app component.html. Let me get rid of the default code that Angular CLI has generated and add our selector. Perfect. As our server is already running, let's launch the browser. Perfect. As we set toggle property to true, on page load itself, we are able to display the content that we added inside if class. So when we click on button, the toggle property will set to false. As we don't have else class, nothing will display in the UI. Let us try that. There we go. Let me click on display button again. Now the property is set to true. Again, we are able to display the content that we added inside the if class. So let's add else class as well in the template. To do that, we need to add the following code. We add a semicolon and add else and the else block name. Let me give the name as toggle else. Okay, let us create ng template element and add this toggle else property with hash notation, and we need to display the content inside the else. Like, let me give the content inside the h1 tag, and let me copy this content from here. Let me change this to else. Okay, I have saved it, and let us launch the browser. Let us click on display button now. Perfect. Now we are able to toggle the if and else conditions when we click on the display button. That is what our expectation is. That's all pretty much for this episode. Thanks for watching.